adirabuin fada ada kada tanghimene.
Making headlines this hour, the President urges the strategic adoption of global communication advancements to bolster national revenue and elevate the Maldives' international standing. Home Minister reaffirms the government's commitment to delivering inclusive public services without discrimination and regardless of gender. And the Ministry of Finance and Planning figures shows that the Maldives has continued to maintain the budget surplus during the first 14 weeks of the year.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to PSM News in English with me, Abdullah Ahil. And now the news in detail. President Mohammad Muiz urges the strategic adoption of global communications advancements to bolster national revenue and elevate the Maldives' international standing. His remarks, issued in a social media statement, coincided with World Telecommunication and Information Society Day, or WTISD, observed annually on the 17th of May. The annual observance, rooted in the founding of the International Telecommunication Union, or ITU, in 1865, has been recognized worldwide since 1969. This year's theme, Gender Equality in Digital Transformation, underscores the urgency of bridging the gender-digital divide and ensuring equitable access to technological resources. The ITU is also celebrating its 160th anniversary, reflecting on its long-standing contributions to global connectivity. Marking the occasion, President Muiz highlighted the transformative potential of digital innovation, stressing that telecommunications advancements should be harnessed to reinforce the Maldives' appeal as a premier tourist destination while expanding national revenue streams. He reaffirmed the necessity of proactively leveraging digital infrastructure to maximize economic opportunities. Acknowledging the contributions of industry professionals, the President underscored their integral role in shaping the country's future. He extended his appreciation to individuals working in communications and information dissemination across the country, affirming his confidence in the industry's continued progress. The Minister of Homeland Security and Technology, Ali Ihsan, reaffirms the government's commitment to delivering inclusive public services without discrimination and regardless of gender. In his message to mark the World Telecommunication and Information Society Day, Minister Ihsan said that through digital transformation, every aspect of the economy, society, and life is relying on ever-changing technology.
He said, in this digital age, it remains vital to ensure social stability, safe use of technology, and equal opportunities for all. Referring to global statistics, the minister pointed out that the percentage of women involved in digital transformation fields such as science, technology, and engineering in Maldives remains quite high. However, Minister Ihsan noted that women still have relatively little roles in leadership or management. The President, Dr. Mohammad Muiz, is committed to eliminating the few gaps that remain, he said, adding that ensuring gender equality in digital transformation would benefit the entire country. He said the government aims to provide services equally to every citizen living in every part of Maldives, regardless of gender, under the government's Digital First Nation policy, adding that it will empower women and facilitate their equal participation in the economy. The current administration is making significant steps towards modernizing public services and governance through technology. The Maldives 2.0 initiative is a cornerstone of the President's strategic vision, designed to drive sweeping digital reforms across all sectors and institutions. Launched under the President's special initiative, the project seeks to unify state institutions in the pursuit of fast, secure, and transparent services, ushering the Maldives into a new digital era. With a 3-year timeline, the government aims to implement smart digital reforms and innovations that will streamline public services and transform institutional administration. The overarching goal is to establish a digitally connected future, integrating accessible technology across the islands while elevating service standards.
The Maldives reaffirms its commitment to strengthening its partnership with the International Maritime Organization, or IMO, as High Commissioner Irtisham Adam, the country's newly appointed permanent representative, formally presented her letter of credence to the agency's Secretary General, Arsenio Antonio Dominguez Velasco, on May 16th. At the IMO headquarters, High Commissioner Irtisham outlined the government's priorities in maritime affairs, underscoring efforts to build national capacity and expand engagement with the organization. She conveyed greetings from President Dr. Mohamed Muiz. Secretary General Velasco welcomed her to the role, expressing the IMO's continued support for the Maldives in areas of shared interest, according to a statement from the Maldives Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The meeting highlighted the broader role of the IMO, which was established on the 17th of March 1948 as the United Nations Specialized Agency for Maritime Safety, Security, and Environmental Protection. Tasked with developing regulatory frameworks for global shipping, the organization promotes fair and universally implemented policies that balance industry standards with environmental responsibility. With 174 member states and 3 associate members, the IMO plays a pivotal role in global maritime governance. The Maldives has been a member state since the 31st of May 1967. High Commissioner Irtisham is only the second Maldivian permanent representative accredited to the IMO, marking a renewed diplomatic commitment to maritime affairs. Ministry of Finance and Planning figures show that Maldives has continued to maintain the budget surplus during the first 14 weeks of the year. According to the ministry's weekly fiscal developments figures, Maldives recorded $920.9 million in revenue as of the 8th of May, with a total state expenditure of $797.7 million during this period.
The figures show that the revenue of $920.9 million in the first 14 weeks of this year included $713.4 million in tax revenue and $194.6 million in non-tax revenue, along with $54.3 million in grant aid. During this period, state expenditure of $797.7 million is 21.6% lower than the same period last year, according to the weekly fiscal development report. State expenditure stood at $1 billion during the same period last year. During the first 14 weeks of this year, the largest share of government expenditure was on recurrent expenditure with $726.3 million, while capital expenditures stood at $64.9 million, according to the figures.
The 1446 Hajj mission arrives in Saudi Arabia to oversee all arrangements for Maldivian pilgrims undertaking the noble pilgrimage of Hajj this year. Acting on behalf of the government, the mission will ensure the smooth coordination and facilitation of services for pilgrims traveling from the Maldives. The Hajj mission will work closely with the relevant Saudi authorities to manage and streamline all logistical and religious aspects of the pilgrimage for Maldivian nationals. This year, a total of 1,000 Maldivian pilgrims will embark on the sacred journey. The Hajj mission comprises a diverse team of professionals to ensure that the welfare and spiritual needs of all pilgrims are fully supported. These include officials from the ministry's Hajj section, representatives of the Maldives Hajj Corporation, esteemed religious scholars, a medical doctor, media personnel from the ministry, and a representative from Public Service Media, or PSM. According to the ministry, the mission aims to provide guidance, support, and essential services throughout the pilgrimage, ensuring a safe and spiritually fulfilling Hajj experience for all Maldivian pilgrims. The Ministry of Economic Development and Trade is expecting The Ministry of Economic Development and Trade is expecting the upcoming Maldives Expo to feature around 3,500 local products and innovations. The government is set to host Maldives Expo 2025 this month, an event the ministry says will highlight local brands, some geared for tourism exports, while reinforcing the importance of domestic production in the tourism sector. Organized by the Business Center Corporation, or BCC, in collaboration with various agencies and institutions, the expo will take place from the 23rd to the 31st of May at Central Park in Holomale. Speaking on PSM News Raja Miadu program, Deputy Minister of Economic Development and Trade Ahmad Mohammed said that about 5,000 products are expected to be featured at this year's expo. As of last Friday, products from 51 categories have been submitted across 21 different islands, he said. A special category has been introduced for state-owned companies, with around 5 expected to participate in the expo this year. The opportunity to participate in the expo remains open, and the ministry will continue to accept entries for the next 2 days. An update on business. Wall Street's main indexes rise for their 5th straight daily advance, buoyed by the U.S.-China tariff truce earlier in the week, even as economic survey data showed a deterioration in consumer sentiment. While the S&P 500 steadily added to gains from late morning, stocks briefly lost ground earlier when the University of Michigan surveys of consumers said its consumer sentiment index slumped further in May, while one-year inflation expectations surged to 7.3% from 6.5% last month. All 3 main indexes boasted weekly gains after starting out with a steep rally on Monday, after Washington and Beijing agreed to a 90-day pause in their escalating trade war. This was days after Trump and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer had announced a limited bilateral trade agreement. Investors were also left waiting for clarity on U.S. tax policy as Trump's sweeping tax bill failed to clear a key procedural hurdle as hardline Republicans demanding deeper spending cuts blocked the measure in a rare political setback for the Republican president in Congress. The S&P 500 gained 41.45 points, or 0.70%, to end at 5,958.38 points, while the Nasdaq Composite gained 98.78 points, or 0.52%, to 19,211.10. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 331.99 points, or 0.78%, to 42,654.74. Wegovy maker Novo Nordisk says its CEO Lars Fruergaard Jorgensen will step down over concerns the company is losing its first-mover advantage in the highly competitive obesity drug market. Under Jorgensen's leadership, Novo Nordisk became a world leader in the weight loss drug market, with skyrocketing sales of its Wegovy and Ozempic treatments, which propelled its share price to become Europe's most valuable listed company. However, its shares have plunged since hitting a record high in June last year as competition makes inroads into its market share and as its pipeline of new drugs has failed to impress investors. The company said that Jorgensen, 58, who has been CEO since 2017, will remain in the role until a new CEO has been appointed. Now taking a look at world events, Arab leaders gathered in Baghdad on Saturday, May 17th, to call for an immediate end to the war in Gaza and a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict amid a thunderous Israeli bombing campaign that has killed hundreds in Gaza just this week.
Israeli strikes since Thursday, May 15th, have seen one of the deadliest phases of bombardment since a truce collapsed in March and came as U.S. President Donald Trump ended his Middle East tour on Friday with no apparent progress towards a ceasefire. Speaking at the Arab League summit in Baghdad, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas thanked Trump for his efforts in stopping the war and asked Hamas to relinquish their control over Gaza. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi denounced what he said was ethnic cleansing in Gaza. Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammad Shia al-Sudani said Israel was engaged in genocide. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said nothing justifies the collective punishment of the Palestinian people. Israel has denied the allegations that it is engaging in a genocide or ethnic cleansing in Gaza. Its declared goal is the elimination of the military and governmental capabilities of Hamas, which attacked Israeli communities on October 7, 2023, killing around 1,200 people and seizing about 250 hostages. The genocidal campaign has devastated the tiny crowded enclave, pushing nearly all its 2 million inhabitants from their homes and killing more than 53,000 people. That includes thousands of children. Israel faces growing international pressure to resume ceasefire talks and end its blockade of Gaza amid growing warnings of famine. UN Aid Chief Tom Fletcher asked the Security Council this week if it would act to prevent genocide. Iraq's Prime Minister announced the creation of a fund to help reconstruct Arab states after a war with an initial pledge of $20 million each for Gaza and Lebanon, where a months-long war between Israel and Hezbollah last year left wide swaths of the country's south destroyed.
Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian says that U.S. President Donald Trump speaks simultaneously about peace and threats. Speaking at a naval event held in Tehran, Pezeshkian said Tehran would continue Iran-U.S. nuclear talks but is not afraid of threats and was not seeking war.
Speaking at a naval event, Pezeshkian said Tehran would continue Iran-U.S. nuclear talks but is not afraid of threats and was not seeking war. Trump said on Friday that Iran had a U.S. proposal about its nuclear program and knows it needs to move quickly to resolve a decades-long dispute. Trump told reporters aboard Air Force One after departing the United Arab Emirates on May 16th, quote, "More importantly, they know they have to move quickly or something bad's going to happen," end quote. However, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in a post on X said Tehran had not received a U.S. proposal. He said that there is no scenario in which Iran abandons its hard-earned right to uranium enrichment for peaceful purposes. A fourth round of Iran-U.S. talks ended in Oman last Sunday. A new round has not been scheduled yet.
French President Emmanuel Macron says he was sure there would be a U.S. response to what he described as Russian President Vladimir Putin's cynicism on peace talks with Ukraine, as Kiev said a Russian drone killed 9 civilians a day after the two sides met in peace talks for the first time in 3 years.
Macron told journalists in the Albanian capital Tirana that the ceasefire proposal and the proposal for a high-level meeting are American proposals. He said U.S. President Donald Trump would be concerned about his country's credibility as a peace broker. Putin, after proposing the direct talks in Turkey, spurned a challenge from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to meet him personally in Istanbul, denting expectations for a major breakthrough. Asked about a proposal to increase NATO countries' defense spending to 3.5% of GDP by 2032, Macron said it was important that the figures was not only spent on purchasing U.S. weapons and supplies, but also went into developing Europe's own defense industries. Macron was in Albania after attending a meeting of European leaders, including Zelensky, on the 16th of May.
Top stories in sports. Bournemouth defender Dean Howson will join La Liga side Real Madrid from June 1st after signing a deal with the Spanish side until 2030, both clubs said, making him eligible to play in next month's Club World Cup.
Premier League side Bournemouth said Real activated a £15 million or $66.36 million release clause to sign the 20-year-old on a 5-year deal. Real, keen to have Hosen for the Club World Cup in the United States, beat several clubs to one of Europe's most sought-after young players after his impressive campaign since joining Andoni Iriola's Bournemouth last year from Juventus. The centre-back made 34 appearances in all competitions for Bournemouth, scoring 3 goals. Dutch-born Spain international Hosen made his debut for Spain against the Netherlands in the Nations League in March.
An insight into technology, a new methane-powered rocket developed by China's Landspace Technology launches 6 satellites into orbit, doubling down on a cheap, cleaner fuel that the private startup hopes will help it develop reusable rockets.
The Zhuque 2E Y2 carrier rocket blasted off from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center in northwest China, marking the 5th flight for the Zhuque 2 series, according to a company statement. Beijing-based Landspace became the world's first company to launch a methane liquid oxygen rocket in July 2023, ahead of U.S. rivals including Elon Musk's SpaceX and Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin. Interest has grown in recent years in launching carrier vehicles fueled by methane, which is deemed less polluting, safer, and cheaper than more commonly used hydrocarbon fuels and a suitable propellant in reusable rocket.
That's all the news we have for today. We'll be back with any further updates. Until then, I'm Abdullah Ahil from PSM News.